it's my pleasure to introduce Ruta and to talk about her walking opera.
Yeah, so my name is Ruta Vitkauskaite, and I actually don't have a problem calling myself a composer. I am a composer, even though I really agree so much with all your ideas, and I work, I think, in a similar direction. But so today I wanted to talk about my project Walking Opera, and I wanted to also explain, maybe in a way, my motivation to work on the projects like this as a classical composer. So yeah, so Walking Opera is a project that I started last year, so it's a very fresh thing, and it's been done in August in Denmark, and this year I'm doing it here in London in Notting Hill, and it's happening actually right now, and the final project will be on Friday, so I'm right in the middle of it. And the main idea of this project was to actually bring new opera to new audiences, which is very relevant to this topic of today here. And my idea was to engage, create this site-specific community-related project where I engage my audiences into this new opera right from the start of its creation. And it has two outcomes, or two sides to it, two projects in one, and one of them is voice exploration workshop, and these are the workshops which we aim to bring to communities which live in the area where the opera is being presented. During those workshops I work with professional opera singers, and together we with those communities, we explore their voices, we explore what is operatic voice, we learn a little bit of the operatic singing, we learn extended techniques, we also dip into the world of composing, and we collect reflections from the communities about this local area, and from these reflections we create together some operatic acoustic scenes. And okay, so this is a little excerpt actually just to illustrate one of the workshops. This workshop was actually done in London. Workshops, we record all the audio material, and then later on I work out it into a soundtrack for the soundwalk, and in the soundwalk people are given the headphones and they are being guided through those areas which we kind of worked on in the workshops, but also other areas in the city, and they hear those streets accompanied by compositions and voices of the local communities. And also we, together with the opera singers, we also create kind of arias based on the stories that people told us. So we create arias for the sculptures of buildings and objects of this area, and relate maybe the story a little bit to the history of the place. For example, in London and Notting Hill, we have one big musical episode based on Clementi's sonatinas, because Clementi was living in Notting Hill, actually there is his house, so there are some actual historical figures or events accompanied with this work, but also lots of imaginative events which I invented to be there. So, and this is a little trailer for the, it's a promotional trailer for our Friday's performance, but you can see what the sound is about. the workshops and the sound, two sides of it. And both of those events, they kind of aimed for a little bit different audiences. So with the workshops, the idea is that we go to the particular communities and bring the new opera to them to be experienced from within. And with the sound walk, it's a ticketed event, so people can buy tickets, and whoever wants to, they come and experience this opera and listen to it and participate in it. But of course, quite a lot of people from workshops come on the sound walk as well, because they're interested to hear the voices. But so I came up with this project actually because I've been questioning for myself what is my audience for quite a long time as a classical composer and somebody who also works with education projects and workshops, and I kind of I reconsidered what audience is for myself about 4 years ago, when I was simultaneously working on two compositions. And so, so in my understanding as a classical composer, the audience is very clearly defined. So here's me, a composer, composing a piece, then there is a performer, rehearsing and performing, and there is the audience who listen to it. And so quite often in professional music world, the composer and performer are separated by the score, so there is a score in between. And between performer and audience, there is this kind of stage or some kind of stage environment. And so two projects which made me reconsider it. So the first one is a symphony orchestra piece called Ashraga. It's for a symphony orchestra and accordion, and it's a classical piece, classically written and performed, and I'll just play a couple of sounds of it. Okay, and the second project is called Aronia over to Anquaya, and this is actually the project which I worked in collaboration with people who were exploring the Aronia berry in different ways. And the aim of this project was to experience this berry through music. And because the berry itself is very astringent, and it makes your throat really dry, and also it actually lowers your blood pressure quite a lot. It's quite an experience, you know, to eat this berry and see what happens to you. So our idea eventually became to kind of make people eat this berry, and while experiencing all of this like biochemical reactions happening to them, also see what happens to the throats through singing, through kind of making different sounds in the lower, middle throat, higher throat, and like in this way to experience this berry through music. And I put it all into we kind of put it into composition. There were a few events, a few workshops working with people in different ways. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. It won't play anymore. This is a little sound sample. Oh. At the same time, or worked on them at the same time, and for me, they became the expressions of exactly the same maybe some kind of abstract subconscious ideas that I had at that time, or the ideas that I was caring about at that time. But the first piece was commissioned by the Contemporary Music Festival to be performed in Lithuania by the symphony orchestra in this conventional environment of the Contemporary Music Festival. And of course the audience were also the people who are either interested in contemporary classical music or the people who are interested in symphony orchestra. And the other project, we worked in the residency, very deep Latvian village, Ruta, and the project was aimed to engage people from that place, from that village, and it was kind of aimed to be presented during the apple festival, where people sell jams and apples and also wine made from those aronia berries, so therefore this aronia. And so the first composition was very clearly written in this classical way, and with all the energy aimed towards this very final 20 minutes when the audience gathers to listen to the piece. When the second composition, actually, the utmost importance was in the middle for those people who were workshopping with us and experiencing this berry, drinking the juice, trying out those sounds. And when we sang this composition in the Apple Festival, those listeners from outside, they became kind of like a secondary audience, and it was, they didn't have the full-on experience. And for us as artists, it was less important audience. Actually, our primary and the most important audience was this audience in the middle, the people who really got to engage with a project, and who got, our aim was to make them experience berry through music, and they got it. So, and this is what made me reconsider in general what audience is for me. And I kind of realized that as a composer, as a classical composer, I have all these abstract musical ideas or topics that I care about at a particular moment. And as soon as I get opportunity to communicate those ideas to somebody, those people become my audience, okay? And it kind of depends on the environment where I want to communicate my ideas. So in the classical music world, my very first audience are actually not those 200 people who come to Philharmony, but my first audience are performers, because they are the ones who I need to share my ideas with. And the most easy way is to write a conventional score. It's the fastest way, the easiest way. It's lots of work for me, obviously, but this is the more efficient way to communicate my ideas to the classical performers. When it comes to non-professional performers, score is also probably one of the most convenient ways. However, the score would look different, okay? I would have to think how to make the score so people can really approach it and read it, and so they can experience actually this composition without me kind of simplifying in any way my ideas, but making them kind of approachable for those people. And when I work with children, score is also an option, but for me, definitely the most obvious way is to completely disintegrate this composition that I had in mind, put it into some kind of segments which can be explored through the games, through the workshops environment, and through kind of exploration, co-creation together. And yeah, when it comes to non-musicians or communities or mixture of people, when I don't have the performer in between me and those people, when I want to communicate my ideas directly, I have, again, really several ways to go. So one of the ways would be for me to write a composition for myself. I could play on my violin some kind of music, or do electronic piece which people can listen to. I can also try to work with some kind of notation, some kind of score, maybe graphic score with those people, and I can also try to disintegrate, same as when working with children, I can disintegrate this composition so it is approachable through this participatory environment where people can explore it, can co-create it, without simplifying my ideas in any way, but kind of composing it in a way that it becomes environment rather than a space where people just come to, environment to explore rather than space where people just come to listen. And so, yeah, oh yeah, to illustrate my point, I thought I will try to, it's like as one idea, one object can be viewed in a few different ways. So, for example, when we think about contrabassoon, so if I want to explain to you what the contrabassoon is, if I want to share with you what it is, I can show you the picture of the actual instrument, right? And then, if I have a possibility, I can play you the sound of it. If I don't have any of that possibility, then there can be another way of sharing the experience of what bassoon is, and we're going to have a audience interaction moment now. So if you could just warm your hands up like this, and then we will put them on our ears, and without making any note, we'll do the sound like this. Okay, so if you listen to it from outside, it really doesn't sound like contrabassoon, but inside, hopefully it did for you. So sometimes it is possible to, I think it's possible to communicate musical ideas through kind of creating an environment for people to have this inner experience without anybody else seeing it or kind of in any way being able to approach it. Yeah, so this is what walking opera is about. Walking opera is about sharing this new opera in two different ways. One way is through this participatory experience workshops, and another one is more like a production. It's a sound work, and here I'm about to finish my talk, and I want to share a big problem that I have with it. That as soon as kind of people, when I try to produce this work, both in Aarhus and here in Notting Hill, as soon as people realize that workshop is kind of a half learning experience without any production, without any product, and sound work is a production, people put it in this kind of chain, people who I work with, people who kind of put it up as a project, and immediately the utmost importance is given to the sound work, with workshops becoming some kind of this middle ground where it becomes less important, and it also becomes kind of a place where it's not aimed to be in any way very somehow professionally done, really, but becomes some kind of, yeah, half amateur space to explore sounds. When for me, actually, I think about it differently. As I said, I think about it as two ways of communicating this new opera experience, and as a composer, I quite a lot think that my main goal is to to share some kind of experience with people of this new world of music, and which makes people kind of maybe open up a little bit and think in a way, think differently, okay, change. So this participatory experience is actually, in this way, it's much stronger. Okay, and it's much stronger. And for me as a composer, I kind of feel that there is lots of potential in working in this direction rather than direction of production. But yeah, my main problem that it's not being taken seriously really. As soon as people realize that that it's not a thing where you come in, sit down, and it's given to you, but it's a thing when you come in and you have to engage, it becomes somehow, I don't know, from my experience, maybe it becomes a little less, less pricey, less serious. I don't know. This is my experience so far. So I'm going to keep working in this direction, and on this sad note, I'll finish now. And so today you won't have a chance to experience it through participation, but I brought a film made in August, so you can go to this video installation room and put on the headphones and experience it through listening. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, it's that trajectory between new experience and owning the experience, and then maybe is it serious or not is somehow in that curve, and it's so hard. It's the big challenge. So by sharing your doubt in the end, you share the challenge we all have.
Yeah.
Questions for Ruta?
Do you actually have to pay for the final product? Like the soundtrack, you pay for it? Like
In London, yeah, not in August.
Not
It's
in
like it's not. The idea was that everything is both event can be for free if I get enough funding. But in London, it seems very strange when you have a free event in Notting Hill. I don't know. People tend to book tickets and then not to come, and it's really a mess. So it's very cheap.
Interesting. John?
Yes, I've had similar experiences. I often do some circuits and people flock to come and have a synthesizer, a product or a material object, and after many years of doing that, you get a bit tired of it. You think, that's just something experiential. So a collaborator of mine, we decided to do a series of workshops where it was called The Construct Has No Purpose. It was just experience. You would come for the experience. They weren't so popular in those workshops. But I've nevertheless, I've gone back to that time and time again. Recently, also in Japan, I decided to do a workshop where everybody had to build something in the dark. So the idea that they'd actually make something that worked was going to be impossible, but trying to focus on the experience. And I think it's a much harder point of communication, that to convince people to take part. One wants to come, take something and have something very tangible. You could say this is also true of higher education currently. People having to pay, they want something very concrete rather than just go home with concepts. Not everybody can see the connection between the two sometimes.
True.
I felt quite a lot that maybe naming thing workshop, it kind of makes it more difficult. I was thinking to call it a concert do it yourself. Something like this.
Workshop is a very difficult word as well, because Lee will say that musicians play, they don't work. Yeah, so a play shop possibly, but workshop is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to work. Yeah.
Maybe we sound the same lines.
Yeah, same line, okay.
Same line.
The same.
Anybody else? Yes?
Yeah, I think the term workshop implies that it transforms me into something else that I don't necessarily want. Maybe I just want to listen to something. I don't want to be turned into a musician, but by naming it workshop, it's like, oh, I'm maybe not interested in that transformation, even though I would like the experience once I'm in. So I think that might be the barrier why people are not engaging into it when it's called workshop. I had another thought actually. I like that when you spoke about how to create scores, because that's something I'm thinking a lot recently. And you realize that by having the direct interaction with the participant, being later your audience, that you get a much better engagement of them. My problem is though, how would that scale if you're not having something in a written bit that you could spread to any musical group? I mean,
Yeah, this is discussion I have a lot with like I would say maybe 70% of my music is not written down because I also work with professional musicians, but in collaboration. So writing scores to quite a lot degree doesn't make sense because we kind of remember most of the things we work on. And like when you think about sharing it with others, I don't know. I believe there are other means to share, except that passing the score on. I mean, it's possible to send them the recording of the workshop, and they can listen to it and rework it in their own way. And I don't know. There are. Yeah.
You shared other ideas like this experiment that you made with us. It sounds complicated to write down an experience. Please do this to imagine a bassoon. But it's possible, you're right. Maybe it's just a challenge to find ways to transport that.
Yeah, I just think it's a really important point and a really interesting point. So if you replicate the experience, do you need to be there to facilitate that? Or are you also replicable? So if the experience is part of the piece, an essential part of the piece, and then we're talking about reproducing the piece, so it's not going to be via a score, but reproducing the piece probably means reproducing the workshop bit of it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think how to say? I think like for example, with a score, because people study music for very many years, study how to read score.
Yeah.
And it becomes very simple. You put it on the table, and they can read it. Like they can sight read it in the concert. Like it's not really a problem with a score. Now with this type of work, the communication works differently. This is something people haven't studied before. So I don't think people should expect that it can be as easily understood like this right away. I think for me, I can understand that somebody else could do this work just as well, but obviously I would have to introduce this, because there are structures for the workshops and there are structures for the opera, and there are very clear ideas what it should be based around. So people will have to spend a little bit more time if they want to recreate this work, but not because it's more difficult to recreate it, because I think people don't in education that they have this preparation to understand this right away. So yeah, I think the easiest way is to maybe attend one of the workshops or watch the video of the filmed workshop and watch the video of the opera, read the structure of both workshops and opera, and then kind of do it yourself somewhere else.
I think I see it's quite a positive thing actually, quite a precious thing, that actually it's about your presence maybe, and maybe it's in a way it's not replicable in the ways that technology allows us to replicate things. Everything from the printing press onwards is about replicating. Maybe I think it's a possibly quite a Luddite thing, but I think it's really positive. I think it's a counter to.
Yeah, I mean, nobody yet asked me if they could replicate it, so the problem didn't come yet. Yeah, so yeah.
I have a question. How do you deal with author rights? Whose work is it in this case?
Oh yeah. It's I kind of I identify myself as an author of the idea.
Yeah.
So I'm the main person, and then composition is being created by everybody who participated in that. So including communities who work with those people, but also included the singers. There are at least 3 singers working on the project at the same time, and then there is also one more composer actually who helps me with the sound design and everything. So so there are quite a few composers of this
Yeah,
work.
do you name it like that? Do you go
Yeah.
to an author rights association and you name all the authors?
Yeah, I haven't registered it yet in this
But
way.
would you register it? Because
I
it's quite
think
difficult.
so. I think so. I don't know. I think that would be a fair way to, like, you know, you can say the percentage of the work done can be different. It's not maybe done in equal. Those people who attend one workshop, they do much less work on it than me who works on it for a month. But it's like, still I think everybody should be named in that.
In the program.
Okay, I just a thought about your problem of the participants. Maybe it is the result of an historical evolution, because since the invention of the radio and other technology to record sounds, gradually there was no need anymore to participate actively in music. So this is has become part of our society, I think, and now maybe we are entering a new phase where technology is apt to maybe the opposite direction. Yeah, maybe. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Post-digital, post-technical, here we go. One last, two last, and then we're going to stop.
Well, just a short one. I wanted to ask you about whether you've got some feedback from the participants. Were they like happy about how you process their voices, because or were they expecting something else? Or
Yeah.
you had the chance to.
I think so far the feedback I got, it's very, very positive. I mean, really, I don't know, maybe those people who hate it, they don't tell me, but those who told me, it's very positive, and it seemed that people just, as soon as they come into this workshop, because it's very clearly structured. It's like a piece of music that you sit down, you listen, you get into it, and you come out of it. So same as the workshop, you get into it and you come out of it. People seem to just go with the flow. I mean, it's aimed to be designed in the way that it doesn't feel uncomfortable in any way. So, I mean, we really think about it a lot, and if we go to work with particular communities, I don't know, for example, in August we worked with this political party, Alternativet, they're very nice, and so, but we really thought about how to engage them into this kind of, what will they want from this workshop, and how to engage them in it so they don't feel in any way, I don't know, uncomfortable or something. I don't know, from my point of view, this is a very strong and interesting experience for people, and maybe, you were right that maybe the workshop can scare off because people immediately realize that they'll have to participate. And I had one friend who I made to come, and she said she was really, really scared actually when thinking that she'll have to sing, but it actually was no problem, because it's not about singing this thing. It's not, you're not being exposed in any way. It's about your own inner experience, and that's it. You get it, you go home, and you're happy, and that's it, basically.
Okay, last year.
Yeah, just with reference to your question of having a problem with generating an audience, I just wondered immediately whether you'd taken it to schools.
No, not yet. I wanted to, but I didn't manage yet to do it, because I also kind of have to produce it myself, so it's very, very difficult. But yeah, I wanted to.
No, there's still the option to do it in the future.
Yeah, we'll do it in the future in school.
Absolutely, great. All right, just one practical remark. The workshops are in here. The 2 videos are across. The installations are in paste. The talks that we have at 5:30 are no longer in here today. They're in paste because there are reasons for them to take place in the other space. So when we reconvene after the 3 workshops, in case somebody's not there at the last one, we will pick up at 5:30 in paste on the main floor. Enjoy your lunch, and thanks, Ruta.